The Cycling Podcast presents Life in the Peloton. I'm Mitch Docker, and welcome. This time we're listening to Luke Durbridge, one of my all-time favourite guys to have on the podcast, as you will find out in this coming season. Coming up on the 29th of January is the first official release of the 2020 podcast, Jimmy Whelan, so hang in there for that. But for now, we've got Luke Durbridge, and get used to his voice because he's going to be a constant guest on Life in the Peloton. And there's a good little bit of banter between me and him. So sit back and enjoy this one, guys. So here we are. This is the pre-tour Life in the Peloton special edition with my good friend and regular, Luke Durbridge. Welcome back to the podcast, mate.
Thanks for having me back on, mate. Good to be here.
It's a hot summer's day in Girona. The final preps are done. The tour's just around the corner. It's a big rigmarole. It starts early in the year. People start talking about selection early in the year more than any other race. It's the biggest race we know. Because of the hype, not necessarily because of the toughness of it, but I think just because of the hype around it.
It's been the biggest race in cycling for forever. So it's one of those things that pressure's on for everyone. Sponsors, team, riders, pressure's on in general. So
exactly.
It's, I think the selection, like you said, starts October the year before, really. Everyone wants to be on the tour. So, yeah, the selection is a tricky.
Moving on, we've actually got some questions that people have sent in.
What do we got?
What's your pre-Tour de France prep? This is from Nick's Rider. What was your Tour de France prep? Because, like you said, it's been changed from the Giro. But what have you done literally since the Giro to now? And the Giro finished 5 weeks ago? 4 weeks ago today, is it?
My prep looks like week off.
Yep,
more or less. Move the body a bit. I pretty much eat and drink what I want for a week, and then I went to altitude. It's the easiest way to stay healthy and keep weight off. Mm-hmm. Pretty much what you need to do is really basic. You just need to keep your body moving. You have so much load from the Giro, and I finished the Giro not wrecked. So if you finish the Giro wrecked, you're pretty much pulling yourself out of hole for 2 weeks. But because I didn't finish completely empty, I could have a week off and then pretty much start back to training. And you just need to touch on each zone throughout the next couple of weeks just to sort of build a little bit of base, keep your weight off, touch on all the zones, recover as much as you can, make sure the body's moving well, get back to basics, eat well, good nutrition. Seems pretty simple, but you've got so much load in your legs, you don't need to do much, and you just need to absorb that. And if you go and do too much, you arrive at the tour too tired, and by the end of the first week, you're on your knees. I've done the Giro and the Tour twice before, back to back, and I've definitely got it wrong the last 2 times. Oh. So I'm hoping that I don't get it wrong this time.
What's one thing that you've noticed this time you've done completely different than the other 2 times?
Well, I think I finished the Giro too depleted, too tired, and didn't give myself enough rest. Yeah. I'm a fair bit older than I was back then. I think I was only 23. So I was like not really sure about my body. My body was doing all these different things and was putting on weight, and my nutrition was pretty bad. I was trying to diet pretty heavily, but I was putting on weight by dieting. You know, like not
just
giving...
because the body was fatigued and was protecting itself. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, now I think you got a good feel. You have to... There's no set plan. You have to be adaptable. So one day you wake up really tired, have the day off. Just because in the coach's ideal world, you need to do this, you don't do it.
You just have to be in tune with your own...
and listen.
Yeah,
exactly. That's so pretty much it. And then last week I've done a bit of intensity.
Have there been any key sessions that you've sort of gone, I need to knock this out before I know I'm ready for the tour?
Not really. Not something that you have to put so much pressure on. Anyway, let me hit you with one. How do you stop yourself from overtraining? This is from Greg WA Dude. I think this is in general. Is it the coach or you sort of call it?
I think it's back to what you just said then, is being in tune with your own body and knowing when enough is enough. And you got to be really sort of honest with yourself there and make sure you're not being a slack bastard. Or then on the flip side going, you know what, enough is enough. So you do know it after a few years that you're doing junk Ks, let me say that, when you feel tired, you're just riding along opposed to training. That's an indication to me. I can feel it in my legs. I can just feel it in my general body and how I am off the bike. If I'm grumpy, if I'm tired, if I'm just a pain in the ass to be around, I need some rest. Unfortunately, you get that feeling coming into the third week of a Grand Tour, but you've got no choice about it.
That's
and
true.
That's sort of an indication. You know when you get to that level in training, the beautiful thing with training is it's training. And you can take that rest and get the best benefit out of it.
But you're always in that undeciding factor of like, should I take a rest day or am I just being soft? Or is this the whole point of the coach's plan? But you know there's a level, isn't there?
I think exactly what this question states is it's a problem with athletes is that there's not many pro athletes out there who are under training. It's more about stopping at overtraining. And that's when the coaches do come in and just go put the brakes on a bit, and you got to listen to your coach. If you're going out there doing secret training so your coach doesn't know about it, I think you've got some problems. All right, next question. How many stages does it take for the bunch to settle? Does it depend on who's present? And I think they're referring to, this is from Tonk 184, they're referring to in the Tour de France, how long does it take before the bunch actually goes, okay, that's your position, that's my position, let's just race and let's just get to the finish line?
I think it's for all Grand Tours. It's after the first week, hey?
Yeah.
You know, like I said, after maybe the first mountain stage or after the first week, everyone's energy level starts to go down and you can see who is really struggling and who's not really struggling, and people just generally stay where they meant to stay. Yeah. And the GC hierarchy becomes relevant.
Yep.
Yeah. So probably our first week. Pretty much same with all Grand Tours.
First week or first mountain stage. And if the first mountain stage is after the first day or second day, which has happened, there still is a bit of stress around, but it is straight away less.
It is straight away less. It makes a big difference. Next one.
Yep.
Can we get stats on Grand Tour climbs versus 10-day Tour climbs? What's the pace like? This is from Blonde.
This is something that both you and I aren't going to know too much about, but we still get a feel of it, of the smaller climbs that we have to get over. And
personally, I don't think there's that much difference.
I was about to say that. I don't think there is any difference.
No. I don't
Maybe the one difference I feel there is in a smaller stage race, less days.
Yeah.
There's a few guys who are on the borderline of maybe getting over a climb or maybe not. Still go for it. In a Grand Tour, they make that decision to go, I'm actually not a climber.
Yeah,
but when it's like a Paris-Nice or a Tour of Suisse,
a classic guy trying to get a hard day in, or
someone like a Tish Benoot.
Yep.
In a Tour of Suisse, he was right up there competing for the GC because he can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Whereas in a Grand Tour, maybe he doesn't go for that because it's 21 days. It's a really specific rider.
And he picks one day to go for a stage or something.
I could be completely wrong. Maybe he'll finish third in the Tour this year. But that's an example.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's too much difference, no.
All right, let's move into some accommodation questions on the tour, which is something you might have to answer all of these because it's something I've never done. The worst accommodation in the Tour de France. Tonk 184 again.
Well, you've done Paris-Nice.
Yeah, but in the Tour de France.
No, but this is probably Campanile.
Yeah.
Ibis. You know, those chains, you can't even open up your suitcase in the...
The rooms are just so small.
There
should be...
No aircon, and it's tour. So we've got like a couple of fans, you know, and you literally can't open your suitcase. It's the staff have to flip their bed up on the side to put the massage table.
There should be a rule in a hotel that you should be able to open a normal sized suitcase.
Should be, but it's not possible. So I think they're the worst. There is occasional... I actually really like the old family hotels, you know.
Well, you've got the team, because what often happens is the teams are split into hotels. Not all the teams are at one hotel. So you might get a hotel, if it's a bigger hotel, a chain hotel, you might get 3 or 4 teams there.
Yeah.
Which is a crap situation.
Because there's just no room.
And teams require a lot of extra crap.
Exactly.
Ice, more baguettes, more towels, extra stuff at the dinner. So if you've got 3 or 4 teams there, the hotel's really clacked out and they're just like, why did I ever get a cycling team here?
Yeah.
If you got a hotel, a smaller hotel where you've only got 1 team there, the hotel's not clacked out. They're sort of like privileged to have you there.
They're a bit fans too, and they love it.
And they go to the extra mile for you. They, you ask something like, yeah, no worries, we'll do it for you.
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
All right, what's the worst meal you've been served on a grand tour? Well, a grand tour. Actually, I can answer this too.
This is from Moto's Ibisis. I would say one time in the Giro, we were staying in this hotel actually in France. And, it was terrible. Your previous chef, Sean, saved us, actually.
Yeah.
They served us a cup of rice each, and I think it was chicken. I don't know. We never used to take a chef to the Giro because the food was always really good in Italy. And so we didn't have a chef. And literally we'd done a mountain stage, probably 6,000 calories that day, and we got a cup of rice and something that none of us ate, and that was it. And we sort of said, where's the food? And they said, well, that's all we got told that we had to give you. So they had nothing. So we were just sitting there like, this is horrendous. Like, we're trying to work out what we've got to do. We've got another mountain stage the next day. And Sean, the legend, sort of saw this. They had Garmin back in the day had a chef, and Sean cooked up a huge risotto, did some big steak, and just put it on our table. And look, we were an hour later than everyone else, but it didn't matter. So it sticks into my mind as probably the worst food that we've had, but turned out to be one of the best. So, yours?
I can't actually think.
There's been some bad ones probably.
Yeah. Yeah, often you get in when you get in very late to the hotel.
Now we have chefs, it's pretty not that bad. But
And I think one thing for everyone to understand is often these hotels can make good food, but they get a menu from the race.
Also a budget, yeah.
Yeah, a budget and a menu from the race. The race might say to them, you need to have a meat, you need to have a pasta or a rice and a salad. And sometimes they take that literally and go, well, that's literally all you're going to get.
Yeah.
And sometimes you look across because the staff just get the hotel meal, which is whatever they want to make, and you're like, why can't we get that?
Yeah.
They can also get flicked too, or they can get good stuff, especially in Italy.
True. That's very true.
Well, let's move on to some nutritional questions then. How do you manage to stay properly hydrated on the hot days? A lot of hot days coming up. So what's your hydration protocol looking to the tour?
Generally, most days you just pre-hydrate in the morning. There might be like minerals or salts in your water, and you might drink a litre and a half before the stage, from when you wake up to when you start. During the stage, you're trying to put away on the really hot days, 3 bottles an hour, and that could be a mixture of carbohydrates, minerals, and just plain water. What you can do is you can have too much carbohydrate, not enough water, and then your stomach starts to shut down on the hot days. That's why it's always tricky. And then post-stage, I like to do the weigh myself in the morning, weigh myself after the stage, work out roughly if I've lost 2 kilos or 3 kilos or whatever, and then I'll try and drink at a minimum before I get off the bus 1.5 litres with some minerals and salts in it. And then if I've lost more than probably normal, I'd probably do maybe another one before bed. But yeah, I mean, we're pretty onto it now, team doctors, team nutritionists, to making sure we're keeping hydrated.
One extra thing that we do is that we have our urines checked in the morning. So
yeah, that's true, yeah.
Do a little urine pot, and it sounds disgusting, but the doctor just checks the density of that. And if overnight...
What is the range that you...
I'm always normally... Look, I call it 10, but I think it's like 0.001.
Okay.
Is the density.
Okay.
And if you're like...
Above that.
Yeah. If you're above 30,
that's detrimental.
Yeah, not detrimental. I think it's like, okay, you need to start drinking a fair bit of water before the stage.
Sure.
But I range between 10 and 20.
Okay.
For anyone who doesn't know out there, these values are going to mean bugger all. But all pretty much they do is they just check the density and just see like, okay, you're pretty dehydrated. You've still got a few hours because the stage normally doesn't start till 12 o'clock or 11. So you've still got a few hours in the morning and take a bit more care about getting some fluids in before the start of the stage.
This is in terms of other riders in the peloton. Is there a special bond between Aussies in the peloton that extend over different teams? This is from Secondhand Cyclist. Well, I guess doing the mateship that we have, I guess it's true. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think, look, initially when we were both on Green Edge, I get the feeling that it felt like most of the Australians were on that team in the beginning. You know, there were a couple guys outside that we chatted to. But then since those years, everyone's dispersed a bit. And yet we just talk across the teams. There is a special bond between the Aussies. You know, once everything calms down and the breakaway's gone, you sort of find yourself migrating back to your friends, which are generally Australians, and just having a chin wag and then getting back into the racing. What languages are spoken in the peloton? Does this affect communication? How do you communicate tactical instructions without other teams hearing? This is from Pomme de Terre.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest language in pelotons now is English.
Yeah.
If you're on a team that's not English, then you need to obviously learn that language. That's also tricky for Aussies to go to, say, a French team or a Spanish team because they speak Spanish on the radio or they speak French on the radio. We all have different channels that we're on, so you can't hear another team.
But what about if you're riding along next to someone and you're saying, okay, we're going to attack on the hill at kilometre 60?
Yeah, you keep it to yourself.
Yeah, but how do you do that?
Well, you either say on your own radio.
Yeah, but I mean, you're riding next to me.
Oh,
I could hear you.
Well, then you've already heard, haven't you?
Yeah, but how would you do that?
Well, either you go back to the team car and have a private conversation, or you try and find somewhere discreetly to say it. There's not really a way around.
Yeah.
You could still hear me, I guess. But I don't think it makes that much difference, really.
I think, in that case, when you're saying something so specific like that, you would go back to the team car.
Yeah, the team captain.
Or you would just get there would be a plan from the bus.
Yeah.
And you might be like, can you, in the team radio to the DS, the director sportif, can you repeat this morning's plan on the radio to everyone, please?
Yeah.
And then that plan might go through the headphone and everyone would hear it then.
I mean, if I'm moving up in the bunch and I see a rider in front of me and I know he's from France or from Spain or whatever, I'll choose his language to let them know I'm coming past.
Yeah.
You know, and if Italian's in front of me, occhio, which means I'm coming past, pay attention, you know, just so they can trickily, find that out. So you don't say, excuse me, or move. It doesn't make any sense, Most of them speak English anyway, but I will choose that.
Exactly. And you tend to speak a bit more of the language of the country you're racing in.
That's very true.
All right, some random questions now.
Let me hit you on. What are some of the strange, unusual items you have seen your teammates pack and the worst thing you've lost or left behind at a Grand Tour? This is from Jethro Nagal.
Strangest things. I remember Chris Jensen had this mat. I think you've got one now.
Yeah, the acupuncture mat.
Yeah, it's like a nail mat.
It's
like you roll out this mat and it's like got upside down nails in it and you lay on it. Remember those pictures of people laying on nail beds? It's like that. What is it?
Yeah, it's basically that. It's super, super solid to lay on, but it's like sort of meant to stimulate all the nerves on your back and relax it. But I really rate it. I think it's a great thing. But yeah, I guess that's one of the weirdest. I was saying because I roomed with Chris in the Giro too, and we both had our unusual mats laying on them. So
on the bed?
On the bed. Yeah, you do on the ground, you know about it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you got a little bit of cushion underneath because if you don't have any give, it'll give you some damage. What is the worst thing you've left behind, though, at a
last year at the Giro, because you always get your kit, it's always a little bit wet, and so you hang it up on the coat hangers in the cupboard.
Yeah.
And up until then, sometimes you close the cupboard door or whatever, you're like, oh, my kit's in there for the next morning, I'll get it out. And this specific day, I just didn't get it out.
and went to the stage start, and I had no kit. Like all my extra kits in my suitcase gone in the truck, gone to the stage.
Kit. Okay.
And halfway there, I was like, oh, my kit, shit. And so one of the Swaniers had only just left. He was leaving a bit later. He turned around, he went back to the hotel, got all my kit, and then brought it to the stage start. That was probably the worst.
Crisis averted.
What about you?
Oh, this is like not that bad, but I have these like Moroccan sandals that I bought from Morocco. I wear around the hotel. You know, they're like precious to me. And I left them second day of the Giro. But
Did you ring the hotel?
Yeah, rang the hotel. They had them. Sweet Swanier of mine had a mate who lived close. Went and picked them up. DHL'd them to the rest day. Got them back. So, but yeah, you always lose your heart rate strap every now and then, and things like Garmin's and, you know.
Power charger.
Yeah. You lose a power charger. Soap in the shower that you might have. Or
yeah, exactly.
Who stays in 21 hotels and doesn't lose something in 3 weeks, you know?
Well, that's another one done. Luke Durbridge, always fun to have on the podcast. Make sure you stockpile your questions because I love doing a mailbag with Luke too. Just remember, Jimmy Whelan's release is just around the corner. I want to say thanks to everyone on the Cycling Podcast for helping me produce this little mini-series, and thanks for the future producing they're going to do this season too. Really looking forward to it. Thanks to Lara behind the scenes too at Life in the Peloton. And guys, until the next little episode, cheers. You have been listening to Life in the Peloton. The producer of this episode was Will Jones. The music in this episode was composed by Pete Shelley. Thanks, mate.